Hey guys, Manic Mercurian here, and in this video I'd like to cover the astrology for the week of Tuesday, September 14th through Monday, September 20th. And this is our last full week. It's my last weekly forecast that will be fully in the sign of Virgo. So we're sort of beginning already to look at the fall equinox coming up in the northern hemisphere anyway. Spring equinox in the southern hemisphere. And we're approaching this day of equal light and darkness that we will experience worldwide called the equinox. So that's sort of what we're leading up to. We're leading up to fall for most of us in the northern hemisphere. And then also this week is notable because we do have a full moon on Monday. So I'll definitely cover that here. But let's get started. So first we have Tuesday, September 14th. And the main thing we have here is Sun opposing Neptune. And here by noon, it's already passed here in the Eastern Standard Time. But, sometime during the day, we've got Sun opposing Neptune. Really, we can experience this all day because Sun will be, give or take a degree or two from opposing Neptune all day. So what does this mean? So you can kind of think of this a little bit like a full moon. Just a little bit like a Pisces full moon, just because it is an opposition involving the sun. The only difference is instead of the moon involved, it's Neptune. And so it's extra confusing. It's a little bit like a full moon, except a little bit more confusing and more surreal. So we may be more worked up. We may be more sensitive at this time. Virgo and Pisces are both such sensitive signs, and we're combining the two here in this aspect. So the sun in Virgo is going to it's going to want us to do the best we can with what we have and to be efficient and resourceful and practical and to work hard. But Neptune in Pisces doesn't want that at all. Neptune is just stirring the pot. It's just confusing things. It doesn't really care about being productive. It mostly wants us to surrender to the madness because there's such a weird mix when you mix Pisces and Virgo. Virgo is not about surrendering at all. It's about figuring everything out, doing everything yourself, whereas Pisces is just letting go and surrendering. So this aspect on Tuesday is going to, both will be required of us. So, do the best you can, be efficient, be practical, use your common sense, but at the same time, pick your battles and learn, just know when to let go. Know when to, do what you can and then forget the rest. There's many sayings about this. And then especially, we're all going to be going through this. So expect some people to be confused or sensitive. I would say to take it with a grain of salt if you can. Just kind of give people space on Tuesday because we're going to be a little more crazy, a little bit more worked up, more sensitive, more confused. And especially involving Virgo with the Neptune in Pisces, people may think that they understand things when they are actually confused. That's the whole confusing aspect of being confused, is that sometimes you don't even realize you're confused, especially with Neptune and Pisces making this aspect. So, just take it easy. Just, be malleable. These are two mutable signs, so let's just be easygoing, kind of get through the day, do what you can, and if everyone's not happy with it, just kind of, it's fine. If that makes sense. Hopefully that I'm articulating that correctly. And then let's go forward to Wednesday. Oh, I forgot to mention. So late on Tuesday the 14th, we do have Mars entering Libra as well. So that's another major highlight that I didn't mention earlier. But yeah, we have Mars changing signs. So Mars goes from the very productive and industrial Virgo to Libra, where it's actually in detriment. So now, Venus and Mars are in detriment. Here we go, Mars into Libra. So what does this mean? So with Mars and Libra, we may be a little bit more passive, less energetic. Mars is in detriment in Libra, so we don't necessarily want to fight or be competitive right now. So that can actually be good. Mars is a malefic. Mars is an asshole sometimes. So having Mars be a little bit subdued or weakened can actually kind of be a good thing. Especially for us who, if you have a lot of fire in your chart, or if you've got a lot of like Scorpio and you've got a lot of Mars energy, you have no issue with, asserting yourself and being aggressive. Maybe this will be kind of nice, just a little bit of more chill energy, more detached. But then for some of us who, need that energy, we want to be more aggressive, then, we might miss that Mars energy since we're a little bit more subdued at this time. But then the pluses, we might be more we might be more thoughtful or more considerate or strategic. Mars in Libra is very strategic because it doesn't act like it normally does. Mars usually is reflexive. Reflexive? I don't know if that's a word. Mars usually is about reflexes. It reacts to things instantly. It's like knee-jerk reactions. It's like fighting. You know, you're not really strategizing in the moment. You're just all instincts. But when Mars is in Libra, it's very unlike itself, and it's sort of detached, removed, and it allows us, it's sort of empty, so it allows us to strategize rather than reacting immediately. So plus side is maybe we can be more thoughtful, more considerate, more diplomatic, maybe less aggressive. Minus side is we might be a little bit lacking of energy or lacking of the ability to assert ourselves with Mars and Libra. Okay, going forward to Wednesday, September 15th. No exact aspects, but we do have, Mars, of course, is at the beginning of Libra. And Sun is, beginning to close out Virgo now at 23 degrees. And it's still only 2 degrees away from that opposition with Neptune. So we still might have a little bit of craziness and weirdness, sensitivity and confusion, kind of dwindling down, still maybe affecting Wednesday to some degree. But otherwise, we do have the moon transiting Capricorn, making this really nice trine. I love sun-moon trines in transit because it generally is a sort of relaxed day. So that will bring a lot of balance to things. And then moon was in Capricorn on the 14th on Tuesday. But it wasn't trining by aspect or by degree until Wednesday. So Tuesday, you do have that grounding energy of the sun trying the moon, but it's weak, and it's mostly just that confusion from the opposition with Neptune. And then on Wednesday, the confusion dies down, and then that easygoing, strong, kind of practical, relaxed, good time energy of moon trining the sun, that gets stronger. So Wednesday looks like a much more peaceful, harmonious, productive day. And we even have sort of a grand trine, a grand earth trine, not by degree at all, but definitely by sign with Uranus and Taurus, Sun in Virgo, and then Moon and Pluto in Capricorn. So that's kind of nice. Earth trines are great. We also sort of have, we at least have an air trine with Mercury and Mars trining Aquarius. So kind of some earthy and airy vibes, a little bit of water with Venus and Neptune. But overall, it seems kind of grounded. Mixing this kind of earth and air energies allows us to be sort of practical and detached. And so earth and air are the best together for being sort of logical or removed from your emotions, which can have pros and cons. But it can sort of allow us to be more detached and to think maybe a little bit more rationally, especially once that Neptune aspect dies down. Let's go forward to Thursday, September 16th. So the only aspect we do have is Sun trining Pluto. So finally, Sun is the last of these inner planets, or Sun's technically not a planet, but Sun is the last of these bodies here to make this aspect with Pluto. And so we do have this sort of long-term focus, maybe to some degree, on Thursday. We may be working on goals or plans. It's a much different energy to Sun opposing Neptune. We're now more focused and thinking about the long term, more planning, stuff like that. And then the moon is in Aquarius now, so we are already beginning to sort of gear up or wind up for the full moon that's coming in just a few days now. Let's go forward to Friday, September 17th. We do have Venus at 8 degrees or 7 to 8 degrees of Scorpio, making a square with Saturn. I'm kind of late in the day right now, but if we go earlier, EDC, Venus is at 7 degrees Scorpio, making that square with Saturn. Okay, so with this square, Venus is in detriment in Scorpio, but then Saturn is in domicile in Aquarius. And so, Saturn is the more powerful planet here. Saturn is sort of more powerful anyway. It's so long term, and it seems like a much older energy to me. Whereas Venus is younger, more youthful. It's more quick. It's changing more rapidly. So what does this mean? So there may be some reality checks when it comes to our finances, especially with interest debts, loans. Do people owe you money? Do you owe other people money? This is Scorpio stuff, especially Venus and Scorpio. And with Venus making that square to Saturn, Saturn may be reminding us you have maybe overestimated how much resources you have. So it's important to be realistic and not to make risks. Definitely on the 17th, give or take a day. So Thursday, I would say Thursday through the whole weekend, I wouldn't make any risks with Saturn at all. It's really not a good time to make financial risks at all. It's important to really manage our money, especially again, it's not so much focused on like the cash or the money in your bank account. It's more about these debts or agreements, like these loans, or it could be like lease agreements. We want to be extra careful and dedicated in making sure that we have committed ourselves to things that we want to be committed to, that are in our benefit, and that we're not overreaching our finances. Also with relationships, Venus and Scorpio is very much about finances, but it's also very intimate, very emotional, very much pertaining to relationships. So that's the same thing though, in a way. I mean, you want to be investing your energy or your resources in the correct areas, not only financially, but emotionally and in our, socially as well. So yeah, just making sure, not overextending yourself, making sure that your energy is invested in the correct places. As long as you do those things, Saturn will actually reward you. It's just when you're being kind of reckless that Saturn will punish you. So just keep that in mind. But let's go forward to Saturday. And so over the weekend of, Saturday, September 18th, and then Sunday, September 19th, there's no planetary aspects, but we are gearing up for the full moon that's going to be on Monday. So really the weekend is kind of building up in intensity, and it's really leading up to Monday. So Monday is actually the main event here, in other words. Let's see. So we do have on Saturday, we do have the moon entering Pisces. And I do always talk about this. I do like the moon in Pisces. I think it's a very fitting sign for it. But really in this context, it's, like I said, it's really just gearing up for the full moon. So there's a sort of, you can sense this before it actually happens. You can sense this kind of culmination that's building up, that's almost ready to burst. And so, the weekend, I don't know, the astrology it actually usually doesn't line up with our weekly schedules or with like the weekend itself. And in this case, it's like if you're trying to have a party, really Monday would be a better day if it wasn't Monday. The weekend is really about, I don't know, preparing for the full moon, or it's about this, it's about sensing emotionally this tension that's building up that will be released on Monday. Hopefully that makes sense. But let's see. But what else do we have? We've got the sun really getting close to the end of Virgo now. Mars is going through the first couple of degrees of Libra. And all week with both Venus and Mars in detriment, and they will be for the foreseeable future as well. It's detriment season. Fall is almost kind of like a detriment season in itself. And we're definitely preparing for fall with these inner planets flying ahead of the sun. Like this, inner planets here flying ahead of the sun. So with these detrimented energies, we might feel more out of place, more awkward. Detrimented energies are more difficult. But again, like I said in the last video, these more challenging energies, being challenging in itself is actually a benefit, because it promotes you, or it invites us to make change and to become better. If everything was easy all the time, we would be less. We would not grow, or we would not, you wouldn't be all that you were if you hadn't overcome all the obstacles and challenges that were in your path to get to where you are now. And so we very much experience themes, along these lines with these detrimented energies. Detrimented energies are also great for being open-minded, open to things that are weird or unplanned or unscheduled, things that are outside of the norm. So with these detrimented energies, like fall itself is almost kind of a creepy vibe, or it's almost kind of weird, or, everything is sort of dying, but there's something kind of beautiful and invigorating about that at the same time, sort of awakening, if that makes sense. And so these are kind of the energies that we feel in fall, especially with Venus and Mars both in detriment at this time. And then real quick, I should mention too that Mercury is in pre-shadow this whole time. So in general this week there is sort of a lot of new stuff happening that we're not fully integrating, that we will revisit later once Mercury goes retrograde. Let's go forward to Monday, the final day of this forecast here. So Sunday is really a continuation of Saturday. It's the build-up that will be released on Monday. So let's just go to Monday, September 20th. Relatively small aspect here. We do have Mercury at 23 degrees Libra, trining Jupiter at 23 degrees Aquarius. And I feel like Mercury was opposing Jupiter not even that long ago. It's flown ahead so fast. Okay, so what does this mean? So Mercury aspects with Jupiter are kind of beautiful, and it almost doesn't even matter if they're trines or squares, because Mercury and Jupiter are so open to facilitating different energies or to expanding into different themes other than their own. And so even though Mercury and Jupiter may be different, they do have that in common. And so that openness allows them to connect in sort of a beautiful way, even if it's a harsh aspect or a trine in this case. So with this trine, this airy trine with these two very intellectual planets, Jupiter's more emotional, I guess, or it's more, emotion's not even the right word. It's more intuitive, or about, like Mercury is about learning through kind of like your mind, like analyzing and learning and observing. It's Mercury's kind of book smart, and Jupiter is more street smart, or it's more worldly wise. It's about getting out in the world and experiencing things and becoming wise that way, not so much through like factual knowledge like Mercury. But both of these together would suggest us wanting to maybe learn more. It'd be a conducive environment for learning and for observing, especially in these sort of intellectual and detached air signs of Libra and Aquarius. We may want to learn. It'd be a good time to study or to teach, for that matter. It's a good time for sharing ideas and knowledge. It's also a good time just for being social or for making friends. It can be, air signs have quite a bit of range to them. Think of air itself. Air is like almost infinitely malleable. It can just move so quickly. And so it does have a wide range to it. Air can be very serious and very disciplined, especially Saturn and Aquarius. I mean, Libra and Aquarius. I'm not sure why I said Saturn. Especially Libra and Aquarius can be very detached and very serious. And I guess they can be Saturnian. Maybe that's where I thought of that. They both have a Saturnian connection. So with Mercury and Jupiter here, we may be very serious and very detached and wanting knowledge and very specific in that goal. But Libra and Aquarius can be very playful as well, and they can be sort of irreverent. And so with Mercury and Jupiter here, we may be serious and just wanting to learn in a sort of strict, serious way, or we may be very experimental and kind of playful and just wanting to kind of socialize and bounce ideas around with other people. The common thread here is the air element, which is about sharing information, connecting with others, and with Mercury and Jupiter, we're wanting to learn more, and we're very able to do that with this trine aspect. But this is sort of a side note compared to the main event, which is the full moon. Here you do see Sun is at 28 degrees Virgo and Moon is at 28 degrees Pisces. And this is always interesting when aspects happen just sort of at the beginning or at the very end of a sign. With the Sun and the Moon, they're both at the second to last degree of their respective signs. And this is especially interesting when you consider that the Moon is at the very end of the entire zodiac and at the very end of Pisces, which is a very intense area because you have this massive ending and this time of massive change. And then you've got the Sun all the way opposite at the end of Virgo, which is also a time of change, not to the extreme degree of Pisces, but it is still very much a time of transition because this is the halfway point through the whole zodiac. This is the time where you transition from the first hemisphere to the second hemisphere, first half to second half. And so combining these 2 points is very interesting. So this point here is almost like the Fool card in the tarot. You come to this point where you know so much after going through this whole cycle that you realize that you actually don't know anything, and you sort of surrender to the universe, and there's really a whole bunch of things that happen. It's about surrendering. It's about this whole incarnation or this whole chapter coming to an end, and just surrendering to that, you almost learn your lesson and you graduate onto the next level. But in doing so, it's this strange combination of realizing that you know so much and yet you know nothing at all at the same time. And that sort of nothingness and that transformation leads to the confidence that comes with Aries. Aries is both the confidence as well as the naivete that comes from the surrendering of Pisces, if that makes sense. And then you have very opposite themes over here going from Virgo to Libra. So, I mean, Pisces to Aries is very soulful, it's very intense. You feel so connected with yourself and so passionate, so in the moment. Over here, it's almost the exact opposite. So Virgo going to Libra is very detached, very nuanced. Things are very nuanced, complex, complicated. There's so much little pieces of information and data when you're at the very end of Virgo going into the beginning of Libra. Everything is, I guess you could say it's complex from Pisces to Aries, but in a way it's also very simple because you're dealing with like emotions and passion. You're dealing with all these really deep feelings that we all know to be true, that we all can relate to. But here at the end of Virgo where the sun is, it's so specific and nuanced and detailed that it can, I mean, this is placements here. Many great authors have placements right here at the end of Virgo and the beginning of Libra because they can be so detached and they can contain these worlds inside of them that they can articulate so clearly with such detail. It's all these little words and details and all this a crazy amount of detail and information that they can use to construct a world. So what I'm trying to say is this full moon in particular is a little bit more interesting just because it kind of hits these points here and it's right before an equinox. So what does this mean? So again, it's a little bit like that aspect that I began this video about, with that opposition with Neptune. It's a little bit like that. You do have an opposition from the sun in Virgo to, in this case, the moon in Pisces. So really, Virgo and Pisces are about integration. Of course, they're integrating very different things, like I just described. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. But they're both about integrating. So Pisces is integrating in an emotional or passionate, intuitive way. Virgo is about integrating more mentally, cerebrally, intellectually. Both are about observing and taking on its surroundings, but Virgo in a very physical way and Pisces in a non-physical way. So we're sort of, I don't know, it's really a lot to manage. It's a lot to deal with. Changes of seasons are difficult for people, I've found. I mean, sometimes they can be beautiful and we can appreciate them because there's so much stimuli available and it's they can be interesting and awakening. But at the same time, change can be hard for people because we adapt to situations and then we hold on to them and we expect them to continue, but then they change and then we wonder if we'll ever experience those emotions or those themes that we were just experiencing, those situations ever again. So change can be hard, but in this full moon, I would say to relax. I know it's a Monday. I would say that I think this would be a hard time for people. Like, I really do. It's like if my rambling doesn't articulate it well enough, it's just there's so many themes here. There's so many themes that you experience at the end of Virgo and at the end of Pisces. There's just so much that goes on. Ultimately it's about a closing and it's making way for a new beginning. The equinox is sort of a new beginning in a sense. And so really we're kind of closing out a cycle and making way for something new. And the process of that can be tedious. It's almost like labor pains when you're, about to give birth to something new, but it's not quite here yet. There's still something else that's ending that needs to make way for something new. And so this full moon may make us feel jittery and anxious. And I think, especially with Mercury in pre-shadow and it's preparing to go retrograde, I don't think we're going to fully understand this at all, especially happening on a Monday too. I just think there's too much to happen. I think you really have to just take the advice that I gave at the beginning of the video. You have to do your best and then just surrender to everything else. Just, do what makes sense to you. And really, I don't think I think it's just important to trust yourself, but also to observe and be open, and to be open to being wrong, to be confident in your abilities, but also able to learn, because this is very much a growth pain type of experience. This is very much, all the mutable signs want to learn and grow and expand, and they're always changing. And those themes can be easier for some of us to experience than others. Learning can be hard, change can be hard, growth can be hard. So I would say to be confident in your abilities, but also be open, because you're not going to have all the answers right now. You're just not, with this full moon and with Mercury in pre-shadow. None of us have the answers. This is going to be a little bit wacky for a little while. But like I've said recently, astrology sometimes is sort of like, sometimes, well, let me preface this by saying I normally would preach self-responsibility and responsibility for one's own actions in one's life. We do have to use astrology to our advantage, and to learn from it, and make it the best we can, to do the best we can with what we have astrologically. But on the other hand, sometimes I've learned that astrology is almost like weather, and we have to kind of just step back and let it do what it does. And it may be challenging in the moment, but we just carry on, and just like a cloud or just like weather, it just moves on and is replaced by something else. So even if this feels confusing or difficult, it is a time of change, but even that in itself will change. The change will change into something more stable shortly, relatively shortly. So don't be overwhelmed. Just kind of relax, allow yourself to integrate, and enjoy the show. So that's pretty much what I have. It was a long, rambly video, but hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you got something out of that. I think I did. And yeah, stay tuned. I'm going to release a series tomorrow, the day after I release this. So on Tuesday the 14th, I have a new series coming out about planetary rulerships and domiciles. So stay tuned for that. But at any rate, thank you for watching, and take care.